Mariah Carey's Me All Challenge.
I'd give my all to have just one more night with you. I'd risk my life to feel your body next to mine, 'cause I can't go on living in the memory of our song. I give my all for your love tonight.
That's pretty darn good, isn't it? So what she's doing there, she's using extremely little air, and that's a smart way to actually go about this sort of a run. You can hear the aspirates, and the airy sound. This style of singing is very much something that you'll see from like Yeba, and Mariah did it incidentally. She actually put a lot more breath. Well, not a lot more, but a lot more, right? And the reason I say that is because what ends up happening with Mariah is because of the folds being damaged as they are, there is a leaking of air that happens naturally. This woman does not have vocal damage. And so what she's doing is she's being incredibly gentle with the air and with the exhale and with the taking in of the breath. And it's so effective as a way to sing this kind of a thing that she was able to kind of like morph her vowels in certain places. I think as she went up, she really put that tongue forward. But in other places, it was kind of a domed, like put down sound that would ordinarily drive something flat. It just goes to show that if you manage your breath and if you're super gentle and light and you're in front of a microphone, you can do a lot of things. Okay, next up. Okay, so we're going to be hyper nitpicky, which is obnoxious because with that quality of audio, every mistake just pops like it's crazy, just like my mistake with that foot pedal right there. So what's first of all, that's what I like to call oh my god, that's what I like to call karaoke reverb. When you're at a karaoke thing and you're running a karaoke thing and a singer comes up and they're not like pleasant to listen to, and I'm not saying that about this woman, okay? It's a great singing, great voice, and we're gonna get into that, but like I need to drive home the fact that much reverb is no. Don't use that much reverb, okay? This isn't the 1980s and you're not in a cathedral. Anyway, what is happening that is driving the pitch flat here and there is her false folds are contracting. So she is trying to get that gritty like sound, that right, that sort of a thing. But she's going about it far too hard. And then on top of that, she doesn't bring back the amount of breath that she's using. So what ends up happening is that the vowel gets jacked and the vocal track gets really tight and tense and the pitch goes down. And she did try to adjust. And this is super nitpicky, right? Like I would say that this is a pretty reasonably good performance, right? If she got piano, okay. Ooh, yes, very nice.
Your body next to mine, 'cause I can't go on.
Very nice. That's really good. I like that a lot. This is another example of making adjustments on the fly, right? Like you're never gonna be. Oh, is it Heifetz, the one of the people consider him one of the best violin players to ever exist. But what Heifetz said is that, he was asked, how come you are always on pitch? How do you do that? How do you have such insanely accurate intonation? What he said was, I just adjust very quickly. And that's what was happening here, is that there were adjustments being made on the fly, which I think is indicative of someone who knows what the hell they're doing, right? If I can find this moment. So in that higher note there, the false folds are really well retracted, right? And that makes that a lot easier. If you want to experience that, just imagine that you are inhaling something you really, really love, like tea or the smell of coffee. Put yourself in that situation. You will feel that expanding, and it makes singing a lot easier when you do that. Difficulty that she ends up happening is that the tongue is going too far back. And I'm gonna be saying this a lot because people don't quite understand. They try to achieve a darker tone, and it doesn't. It works on a microphone, but then you get into kind of trouble. But what's cool is that as she started to get into trouble, she actually lightened up on the exhale. So that saved the pitch. And again, it's I don't care if somebody is like perfect. You know what I mean? That's not the point of singing. I love that she knows enough to just change what she's doing right then and there to make what she's doing work. Nice.
Your body needs to mine, 'cause I can't go on living in the memory of our song. I risk it all for your love.
This is definitely the best one yet. Okay, so when I talked about the retraction or the abducting of the false folds and making that room there, what she's able to accomplish is a much more rich and mature sound. So doing this is actually a lot more difficult, because you have to have a lot of things correct. You have to have a lot of efficiency in your singing to have a lot more of the sound, where your false folds are retracted, where your vowels are really nice, where the pitch is good. This is definitely my favorite yet, because everyone was going like super, super light, or they were singing with a lot of air, but they were kind of messing around, just like me in this foot pedal game. It's really bad. Anyway, they were kind of messing around, right?
I'd give my
That's a loud one right there. So what I want to get at here is that, and this is you're going to hear this as a critique, and it's not quite a critique. So I've actually had a conversation with chat before and people in Discord, where people have said that Mariah's mid belts are not so great. And it's because mid belts are usually not very like dramatic or climactic. So because she's in kind of that middle portion of her range, instead of doing a belt, what she's doing is she's doing a thyroid tilt, which is more of a classical way of singing, and then she's straight toning it by adding just a little bit of tension. And it's very on purpose, and it's okay. It's not going to hurt you. It's inefficient, but if everything around other than that is efficient, you'll be able to do it. So really, really nuanced singing right here. I really enjoyed that.
just one more night with you.
Oh yeah.
My life, the feel your body next to mine, 'cause I can't go on.
Nice.
Living in the memory of a song. I give my all for your love tonight.
Wonderful. First of all, I really wish the beatboxer had a dynamic mic. Those kicks were clipping, right? But like, what am I gonna do? Like, tell like what are clearly teenagers to be like, you need an expensive mic. I have money. Don't. That's not true. I'm a musician. I made bad choices in life. Anyway, what's awesome here, and I hope the takeaway from this video is that there are a lot of different ways to approach this kind of a challenge. This girl is she's so relaxed. She's almost like get out of bed relaxed, and that allows for a little bit of a warmer tone. And it's the exhale is not going to be managed as well, like we saw with the redheaded woman. And I really should learn her name. It's probably a really bad thing to just comment on her hair. Anyway, what this girl is doing, she is managing the inhale. You can't see it right here too well, but look at her torso. We're gonna run it back and look at her torso.
I'd risk my life to feel your body next to mine, 'cause I can't go on living in the memory of a song.
So a lot of people, if you're classically trained, you're going to hear that catch breath and you're going to be like, whoa, why? You shouldn't do that. If you, just for so you understand what's going on, if you are like, if you contract, if you tense your torso a little bit, like let's say just clench your abs a little bit. And when you do that, what ends up happening is that you get this catch breath, right? You do that catch breath, and there's not much you can do to avoid that. And so, yeah, it's not ideal to have that tension, but what's happening is that her torso is not expanding that much, and so it's bringing in less air. So that is definitely a way to solve that problem, because doing those runs, it is about breath. And there is one thing I forgot to mention with the one who so far is my favorite. He did that jaw thing that's really popular now, which I love, because when you go right, like, I can't do the jaw thing, okay? But if you do the jaw thing, you can give notes particular emphasis. Anyway, let's move on. Oh, okay, wow, that's a really nice mic. I think that's Zune H4. Weird that it was clipping. So it's a stereo mic, and so it's a stereo mic. Sorry, the caffeine is getting me all jittery. The stereo mic is going to capture both sides. So this is why the singer is very clear and the beatboxer is clear. But I couldn't tell you why the beatboxer ends up clipping. It could be my audio situation. But those mics, the Zune mics, are very, very sensitive. They're not dynamic mics. They are condenser mics, and a condenser mic is exactly what you think it is, right? It condenses the volume in a very similar way to a compressor. Anywho, all right, let's see what's got here. I give my all to have just one more night with you. Nice. I risk my life to feel your body next to mine, 'cause I can't go on living in a memory of a song. I give my all for your love tonight. This is amazing for so many reasons. So what I love about this one is there are so many different things that he's doing. So in the beginning, he's using areoepiglottic sphincter, in other words, twang. And his breath is, for the most part, spot on, and so we almost get like an operatic sound. It's cool. Then he also is using falsetto, and you might think, well, that's head voice and whatever. Like, falsetto is on a continuum, okay? Like when you have operatic sopranos, they're using falsetto, but they're doing it like in a different way. Like, if you don't believe me, go listen to a countertenor who sings Baroque music live without a microphone. That shit can be loud and powerful. So that's why I say falsetto, because the folds aren't entirely connected. And it gives that more like flute quality. But also what he's doing is he's really managing the exhale, so he gets really, really lush sound. Like, the technique doesn't go away. Like, he's not using falsetto because he can't do it otherwise. Like, he has those notes. And so when he is in falsetto, the technique is still good, which is why it has such strong characteristics for falsetto. The other thing that I really like, in fact, I would say I love it, is that on the low end, he gets rid of AES, and that gives you like because AES adds like higher frequencies right around in an area that is kind of not soothing to the human ear, generally speaking. It's cool, it sounds exciting, but if you do that down low when you're trying to sound low in front of a microphone, those higher frequencies end up being heard first. Let me give you an example of this. So the first one, this is going to be with AES. Right, and now I'm going to do it without AES. Right, that latter one definitely sounds a lot kind of smoother, lusher, more velvety in front of the microphone. You wouldn't hear it without the microphone, but microphones exist. So AES, aka twang, adds this quality where it's I don't know, you heard it, it's its own thing. Anyway, let's get to some questions. I have a question from a YouTube member, and let's just see how we can help. Then the question becomes, how do you manage air other than, you know, exhaling or not taking a lot in? And the answer that people usually would give would be support, right? Support. I'm on too much caffeine, and this foot pedal game is really off. Anyway, cool. Okay, so one of the, you know, exhaling everything and then having good posture. But, you know, what do people mean by support, right? Well, what they mean is that the intercostal muscles will contract in this way, what that does is it expands the rib cage. And so that's what people mean by support, is that the intercostals are kind of expanded. Now, do not, I can't emphasize this enough, do not walk around trying to do that, all right? It's because if you do that, then the entire point of support ends up going away. Because if you're trying to force the contraction, first of all, you don't need to do that. You know how to do that because you breathe air. It's how you do it in the context of an exhale that you need to work on. If you try and contract and have it be like this, and you're doing all this weird posture things, what's actually happening is other muscles are contracting, effectively bringing in the torso, making it so that you don't have as much control over the breath, and also so that more air comes out. So the question we have is, why does using less air help with high notes when you would imagine that if you exhale more air, the folds would more rapidly respond? Well, the reason why you need less air as you go up is that the folds thin out as you, when you think of a pitch, your folds adjust. So what that means is that you don't have to do anything with your vocal folds specifically. You can tilt and you can do things with your larynx, but as far as breath is concerned, the effect ends up happening. It's called the Bernoulli effect. So you see how those pieces of paper come together when I do that? That's the Bernoulli effect, and that's how the vocal folds primarily adduct to one another. And so what you want to have happen is, while these folds are super hyper thin, you want to go up without blowing them open, right? Because if you blow them open, now all of a sudden you get falsetto because just the edges are oscillating. A great way to practice that, and this is how I've been practicing belt, because, you know, as an opera singer, we don't really learn belt, but I'm learning it, and this is how. I exhale everything. Don't worry, if you're exhaling everything, you'll be dead, and collapsed lungs, we won't get into that. If you exhale everything, what ends up happening is you'll have less air to work with fundamentally. And so what I do is I exhale everything, and I go like, "Hey, Pete," and I try to call from, as if I were from across the street. And that's a really good way to practice high notes, just because you'll feel how little air you actually need, and also how much posture you need. So that's how I